rock and roll.
Hello everyone, so I made a little YouTube short recently about Wario Land Shake It. I have no idea why that got so popular, but I thought I could try a couple of follow-up videos. A lot of you are asking about the monitor I used, and the monitor in question is a Sony KDL 15G2000. I am compiling a bunch of footage for another video, so more on that later. And yeah, Wario Land Shake It, or the Shake Dimension as it's known over here, really does look quite striking on this little thing. It's almost like I'm watching a Saturday morning cartoon. I love it. Wario Land the Shake Dimension was developed by Goodfeel, who you may know of from Kirby, Yoshi, that Princess Peach Showtime game, and even a pretty decent spiritual successor to the old Goemon series. Shake Dimension was released in 2008, and being a bit of a Wario fanatic, well, especially for his more traditional platforming treasure hunting adventures, I bought my copy on the day of its European release. And apparently just me and maybe about 3 or 4 other people to do so, because this game did not sell well. Which is a shame, it's pretty good. I think the real standout here is the artwork itself. It looks amazing. The game was animated by Production IG, the same animation company behind animated films such as Ghost in the Shell, and they have worked with various video game companies before, providing animated intro sequences for some of my favourite video games actually. This is an incredible looking game. I do love any video game that has a crafted feel to its design. Backgrounds are all hand-drawn. Wario himself is such a joy to look at. There are supposedly 2,000 frames of animation for 200 actions for Wario, even several individual frames of animations which are only used within certain stages. It's kind of mind-blowing. A little surprising that there are so few animated cutscenes within the game itself, with only the opening and ending sequences. Rather strangely, neither of these are voiced. But Charles Martinet was here to voice Wario again, and he sounds a lot deeper and more gravelly. I quite like it. And yeah, the game really is a visual treat. Playing it again on this little monitor, it looks even better than how I remember.
Yeah, let's go.
I think I originally played it on I don't know, a cheap Samsung HD thing from my old student house. I remember the game just looked like a bit of a blurry mess, like a lot of the Wii games do. We had the Wii set up to 16:9, and you had these really ugly looking borders around the screen. It just completely ruins the art. So make sure your Wii console is set to a 4:3 display. I did play around with the various cables I owned. I connected the Wii component cables to my old OSC, but then I just started using this really cheap Wii 2 HDMI adapter I found, and I thought it looked just as good, to be honest. I couldn't really notice much of a difference, well, apart from the colours looking a little more vibrant. This game is 4:3 by design. I'm not sure why that is. I had always wondered if perhaps Shake Dimension was originally in development for the GameCube, but I didn't think a GameCube disc would have been able to store all of this art and animation at a decent resolution. Maybe 4:3 was easier on the artist? I don't know, I'm not an animator or a programmer. For all the Wii haters out there, I'm afraid to say this is another game where motion controls are forced upon you. You are required to hold the Wiimote to the sides, similar to how you use the old NES controller. Not the only Wii game to use this setup, and there are various motion control actions in the game where you need to shake or tilt the Wiimote, hence the Shake Dimension or Shake It subtitle. But I think for the most part the controls do work quite well. Well, aside this rather boring and kind of annoying submarine minigame where you have to tilt the Wiimote to move up and down, I'm also not a fan of having to use that tiny D-pad on the Wiimote. I don't see why Nintendo couldn't have at least given you controller options, but it is what it is. I'd say the gameplay is very reminiscent of Wario Land 4, albeit much slower paced. And I think the music also deserves a special mention. I think this might actually be one of my favourite ever Nintendo soundtracks. That's no joke. I don't know why, but I get a bit of a Sega CD or Sega Saturn vibe. Sadly, the best track in the game, Windbreak Harbor, is relegated to one of those really boring submarine levels. They really ought to upload this to the Nintendo Music app. So yeah, Shake Dimension looks and sounds amazing, but how is the game itself? Now, I absolutely adore the Wario Land games. These 4 games here, these were my childhood. In fact, these are my childhood copies. I got this copy of Wario Land for my birthday in 1994. Out of all the games and consoles I've collected or hoarded over the years, these 4 Game Boy games are my most cherished gaming items. So yeah, I had unreasonably high expectations of Shake Dimension in 2008, the next true Wario Land title, and I left feeling a tiny bit disappointed. Sorry. Sure, the art and animation are fantastic, there's no doubt about that, and yes, the game is a decent platformer. The boss battles are also a major highlight. I especially love the final confrontation against the Shake King himself, who uses your own moves against you. But I think my main issue here is the level design. It just feels kind of phoned in, which is shocking to say for a Wario Land title, especially after the stage design in Wario Land 4 felt so good. Finding secrets in that game felt pretty rewarding, which is exactly what you want in a treasure hunting game. Shake Dimension is heavily inspired by Wario Land 4, with every level ending on this mad dash back to the start, yet it never manages to feel quite as exciting. Every level has 3 hidden treasures to find, which, again, similar to Wario Land 4, they're normally out in the open and it's usually a case of just trying to figure out how to reach them. There are optional mission objectives to complete, which are as basic as, say, don't get hit by the enemy, collect a certain amount of treasure, or reach the exit within a certain amount of time. Completing all the mission objectives unlocks a bonus CD for you to enjoy the music, which was certainly handy back then. You know, until I ripped the music on the disc. You can even unlock secret levels after finishing the game, so there is a decent amount of content on offer here. Perhaps Wario Land 4 just spoilt me. This is one of the best platformers Nintendo have ever made, so making a follow-up feels like a tall order. I can't help but wonder if maybe that gorgeous art style is holding the game back a little bit. Like, if you wanted to change the layout, I imagine that would potentially mean more frames of animation to draw. This was probably a really time-consuming game to make. And speaking of the art, and this is a totally personal opinion here, it just left me feeling a little bit cold. I mean, just look at the beautiful utter insanity of Wario Land 4. Even the older Wario Land titles had this kind of zany, over-the-top energy to their designs and visuals. Just look at this weird-looking guy. This game is a bit mad. The Shake Dimension, on the other hand, looks a bit too clean, and I really hate to say it, just a bit too safe. I think the Wario Land spiritual successors like Anton Blast or Pizza Tower do a better job of capturing the vibe of Wario Land while still managing to be their own unique thing. Especially Anton Blast, actually. I should really play that game some more. So don't get me wrong, I do love the Shake Dimension. It's a very good platformer that you should at least try. I like Goodfield a lot, they make good games. Kirby's Epic Yarn, for example, that's a really good game. And Yoshi's Woolly World on the Wii U and 3DS. These 2 games in particular are definitely my favourite platformers they worked on. But as a diehard Wario fanboy, I guess, Wario Land the Shake Dimension was just a little bit underwhelming to me. I think I'd probably place it towards the lower tier of the Wario titles. Which certainly isn't a bad thing, there hasn't been many of these games after all, but I just don't think it's quite as good as those Game Boy games. And you know, I'd really love to play through all of these games again actually. Maybe that's a good subject for a future video. Let me know what you think, I've been working on a bunch of video ideas recently. What do you think about Wario Land the Shake Dimension? Maybe it's your favourite in the series and you have a lot of nostalgia for it. It's a shame it's not been re-released on anything yet. And I really do hope Wario Land comes back. As good as Pizza Tower and Anton Blast may be, it's just not really the same for me. Well then, that's it from me today. If you made it this far into the video, this is where I say thanks ever so much for watching, and I hope I catch you next time. Take care.